now delighted to be joined this evening by the one and only Torri Higginson, who played the role of Dr. Elizabeth Weir, as we look in the next part of the Stargate universe franchise sci-fi cult classic series. And we're delighted to be joined by Torri, who played the character, as we said, Dr. Elizabeth Weir in Stargate Atlantis. I suppose, Torri, 12 years on now, roughly, I'd say, from Stargate Atlantis, you still get remembered? Does people mention the word Stargate to you or associate the word Stargate with your name?
It amazes me, but yeah, they still do. I mean, it's such a franchise. That franchise has, and because that franchise existed much longer than just the Atlantis incarnation of it, it seems to have, yeah, really strong legs.
I suppose, Torri, you mentioned that, and obviously the link, you were basically an offset of Stargate SG-1, basically. And I suppose with that, you had Richard Dean Anderson, who played Colonel Jack O'Neill, the role is probably legendary in terms of sci-fi. And I suppose with that sort of, with someone like that, it brings a major sort of a following to a sci-fi series, and people sort of latch on. But how important was it for you in Stargate Atlantis as a new cast, really, to stand on your own 2 feet in terms of the big daddy, which was Stargate SG-1?
Yeah, well, we definitely, I think we're all very intimidated by that fact when we started shooting the pilot for Atlantis. And for me, I had a very interesting perspective on it, because they wanted to reintroduce Dr. Weir with me playing her in SG-1. So I was shooting an episode of SG-1 at the same time we were shooting the pilot for Atlantis. And it was so funny because at Atlantis, you felt we were all very new on the job, and we were very sort of worried that we were going to hold the mantle of SG-1, and we felt this sort of weight of responsibility on our shoulders, and everybody was, you know, terribly serious and working very hard. And then I'd go over to the SG-1 set, and they're on season 8, and they're, you know, showing up with pints of Guinness in their hand and making fart jokes, and they were just so relaxed and having so much fun. And it was these two extremely different, it was like the sophomores and the freshmen, like really different approaches. But I remember feeling, we went down to do a Comic-Con, and I'd never done a Comic-Con before. So our first exposure was San Diego Comic-Con. And we thought the fans were going to hate us because we knew there's this controversy about, is Atlantis taking, you know, replacing SG-1? And we knew the fervor of passion that their fans had. So we were quite nervous there was going to be a lot of animosity and anger, and we were shocked. They opened this door to our very first panel, and there was a football field of people that were warm and welcoming to us. So as much as it was intimidating, we also realized we had such a warm, soft landing, because there is this group of people that were already so behind the concept and had so bought into the franchise that they were just eager for another chapter, it felt.
Yeah, I suppose, Torri, with new sort of franchises, I suppose the start is always the most important. You gain 3/4 of your audience in terms of the start, and you could lose. So those first 2 episodes that rang parallel to each other to start off Stargate Atlantis, how important were they to the show's success in terms of those first 2 episodes?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I'm just an actor, right? I don't even think about that stuff. When I have a job, I don't think about how it's going to be. You know, I just want to focus on bringing, you know, understanding what control I have and why I've been brought onto the project, which is to make this one character truthful and honest and hopefully fun, and hopefully, you know, whatever else they need to be. So I wasn't, I mean, other than the vague thought of, oh gosh, we might be pulled really quickly because SG-1 fans are so mad at us. But I didn't think it was our responsibility. I felt I just have to go in and focus on my little minutia and make sure that goes well. I was really surprised when it was received so quickly and so warmly. And I thought, well, kudos to those writers. But, you know, that group, the producers, and the writers had been on the show in this world for 8-9 years. So they knew it really well. And I think, too, they were some of the first producers and writers to really nourish the relationship between fans. Like they got involved with a lot of the dialogue online, and they understood their fans, I think, in a way that was revealed in how they wrote the shows, I hope.
Torri, were you blown away when you first got involved in Stargate in terms of its production, its mass scale production, its visual effects? And they're all each episode are always like sort of mini movies. They seem to have a start, a middle, and an end, and each episode can really stand on its own 2 feet. If you've never really saw an episode of Stargate Atlantis, for example, and you're watching maybe season 2, episode 12 or something, that episode could stand on its own 2 feet, even without having to know the real starters of season 1. And how important is that in terms of all your storylines? They were basically 50 minutes. They had that starting, the middle, and the end. So there was nothing.
Yeah, that's lovely that you perceive it that way. I actually don't think I'd ever broke it down in that way, but I think that's really healthy for any series because it doesn't then exclude anybody. And you can then have somebody fall in love in the middle of a season and become a fervent follower and not have to. I mean, now it's easy because we can go back, we can watch entire seasons of shows online, but 12 years ago, we weren't even doing that so much then. And when SG1 started, they weren't doing that then. So I think it's very smart to have the kind of show that people can just drop in, that there's something for the person that's just there. I remember reading this wonderful quote years ago, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't know who said it, but it was, I actually listened to it on the BBC radio. I heard it quoted on the radio. This is 20 years ago, and I've never forgot the quote, but I'm so ashamed I forgot the author. But he said, art should do one of 3 things. It should offer answers to those that stumble in with questions. It should inspire questions for those that have none. And it should offer comfort to the drunk who stumbles in by mistake. And I thought that's ideally what every piece of art can do. It's going to offer something to everybody. So if you have that episodic idea, it doesn't exclude the person that doesn't want to be a weekly fervent fan, and they can get something out of it. But the people that have been engaged for 12 years are going to pick up the nuances of character and relationships. So there's something for everyone.
And I suppose, Torri, no actor or actress wants to meet their demise in terms of saying a TV sort of series. But sometimes that can really be a real sort of fun episode in itself, playing that sort of thing. Because we all like to sort of simultaneously see how we depart the sort of world, what it been looked like. And that episode for you, I know obviously your time had come in, but the actual episode itself, did you enjoy playing your final moment?
My final demise. I think actually a lot of actors, I quite love dying in things. It's very fun. And we always sort of enjoy when you get together a bunch of actors, you always sort of compare how many ways you've died and what's the most extreme way you've died and what was the worst way to film and what was the most fun way to film. For me, the Stargate one, yeah, I mean, it was interesting because originally I actually thought with my agent, I only wanted a 3-year contract. And they said, no, we're doing 5-year contracts. So part of me was sort of relieved to get out of it. But by the time we were on season 3, I was so engaged with the other actors and with the character that it was sad. It's always sad to be asked to leave. It's always sad to no longer have a paycheck. There's those issues that were difficult. But on the whole, I was excited to go on to do different work. And I liked the way that they did it. It was sort of fun. And I loved that. Massive. I mean, the first day we walked on that set, I remember being shocked. You asked that earlier. I didn't get around to that. It was the biggest production show I'd ever worked on up to that point. And walking onto that set, and I felt it looked like almost a Frank Lloyd Wright sort of design. It was so extraordinary, the space and the angles and the colors. And so having that whole the window explode, and then the stunt woman was sort of repelled right across the entire stage. And it was very exciting. It was fun and exciting.
And I suppose, Torri, in terms of the success of Stargate Atlantis, I suppose an awful lot would fall onto the guy, the protagonist, who's playing the lead sort of male role in terms of filling the shoes of Richard Dean Anderson. I know that in terms of you want to be prepared, you always want to do your same thing. But in terms of Joe Flanagan, an awful lot of the success of the show rested on his shoulders, because obviously people are going to make comparisons between John Shepherd and Jack O'Neill.
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Sorry, in terms of how much you think Joe, in terms of the Stargate Atlantis success, and in terms of Joe's importance to it?
Oh, how much do I feel he was a part of that success? Oh yeah, I think he was absolutely, he's a very charming man and he's not bad to look at. So he got, you know, a lot of, he got a lot of attention on both of those, but, and his sense of humor is very different from Richard Dean Anderson's. But, and I think it was smart to not try to compete or compare, but absolutely, Joe he brought a lot of intrigue and mischievousness to the character, which I think was very attractive.
And I suppose, Torri, looking on now, I suppose it's roughly been 12 years since Stargate Atlantis was on our screens. If an opportunity came about, a movie or a film, and an opportunity came out for you to play a cameo role, maybe in some sort of character or similar to what you played, would that be something that intrigued you, or would that be still something you'd be up for? Would that the whole Stargate universe still have a fond spot in your heart?
It's funny because I actually entered doing the show thinking I had no connection to science fiction. I was a bit snobby about science fiction and I didn't feel connected to it. I didn't feel that I'd watched it. I didn't feel, and during the 3.5 years that I worked in the show, I fell in love with it. I understood it on a different level and I started to really appreciate it and really enjoy what it can do, especially in terms of dialogue about bigger issues. And I really adored that character. I'm still good friends with Joe Malozzi and the writers, the people that brought that character to me to begin with. I feel I still get letters almost, you know, almost daily. I get letters from young women talking about the importance of that character to them. So I feel nothing but honored to have played her. And I would, in a heartbeat, go back and revisit her in any way I could honor her and honor that time. Because it was a good experience and good people.
On that note, Torri Higginson, an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening to relive your memories in terms of Dr. Elizabeth Weir in the Stargate Atlantis and being part of the iconic Syfy franchise which is the whole Stargate phenomenon. Thanks for taking your time, Torri, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. Bye.